If you like this video, subscribe to my channel. Let's share it on social media. I'm trying to build my audience here, all right? But let's get right to it. So it took me 3 days, but I finished The Irishman on Netflix, the Netflix original film directed by Martin Scorsese, starring the great Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci, and so many others. But I will have to say, it was long. And I may be in the minority on this one, but I thought it was boring. I love that cast of people that are involved in this film. And hundreds of people worked on this movie, which I'm a huge supporter because obviously I'm in the film industry. Full disclosure, I am a Teamster. And I work in the film industry as a Teamster. Just one of the unions that I'm involved with. Local 391, local 509 in South Carolina, and Screen Actors Guild. And so now that we've gotten through that, this is all about this one guy's confession on his deathbed that he killed Jimmy Hoffa. Okay, and it goes through 3 or 4 generations of years, and the big draw to this whole thing is that they spent $115 million, and they did de-aging technology on the lead actors in order to cover generations of them over time to get them to where they are now. And I have to say that I think the de-aging worked in some parts of the film, and in others, depending on the actor, it wasn't so great. This movie brought Joe Pesci out of retirement, and I thought he did a solid job with the character he played. When you look at movies like Goodfellas and Casino, and all these guys do such a bang-up job, but this really is the last hurrah for these guys. And I felt like a lot of the performances, I might be in the minority on this one, were dialed in just a little bit. I mean, De Niro just kind of, almost every scene. That's it. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And, Joe Pesci was very tame because he was playing a real person. So he wasn't like, okay. They fuck you. He wasn't like, like I'm funny, like I'm a clown. Like he didn't have that energy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he was, very, what's going on? He's like, we got to take care of this guy. It was like very subdued. And Al Pacino, he played Jimmy Hoffa in this thing. And this is where the weakest part of the movie is for me. Al Pacino looks nothing like Jimmy Hoffa. Nothing. He doesn't sound like Jimmy Hoffa. But I get it. Like this was an opportunity to get all these guys in this one movie. But every time, because I'm completely aware of who Jimmy Hoffa was, you could actually go on YouTube and search videos of old court hearings when he was brought up by attorney generals and things like that and hear his voice. And I have to say, the best movie so far that's ever been made, as far as I'm concerned, was when Jack Nicholson played Jimmy Hoffa in the movie Hoffa. And Jack Nicholson looks like Jimmy Hoffa. And when they gave him like the hair piece and the way he carried himself, his mannerisms, and the way his voice was. So, Jimmy Hoffa, he talked a little bit like this when he was talking, and you could hear him in the court hearings and things like that. And then, and Jack Nicholson did a great job of replicating that. But Al Pacino, hey, wow, hey, I'm Jimmy Hoffa, and hooah. That's the kind of like, I didn't buy him as Jimmy Hoffa because he is Al Pacino and he probably could have been better as another character in this thing. You know what I'm saying? But not Jimmy Hoffa. And so that pulled me out of it a lot. The other thing is going back to the de-aging. In one of the earlier scenes in the first hour, I watched the movie over 3 days, an hour and 10 minutes at a time until I finished the movie because I didn't want to sit through this whole thing 3.5 hours. Let me tell you something. This movie could have been cut down to 2 hours and 15 minutes solid, and it would have been a perfect film. So many of the scenes they breathed so much because I think there was a little bit of improv going on in some of these scenes. There was just too much. Like there's this one scene with De Niro and Al Pacino where Al Pacino was presenting this award to De Niro's character at a Teamster function, and he pulls him aside to basically tell him he's got to back off of doing what he's doing, and it was just it's just De Niro's just like, you got to back off. You gotta back off. Look, I'm telling you what they're telling me, and they're telling me that you gotta back off. And you understand what I'm saying? And Al Pacino's like, hey, I understand what you're saying, but I ain't backing off because I'm the president. This is my thing. And it went on and on and on. This close up of these two guys back and forth over the shoulders. It was insane. It was insane how long some of these scenes went. They could have just cut this thing down. To make it this epic thing. And going back to the de-aging didn't work very well on Joe Pesci. He's really wrinkly these days, and trying to de-age him in the earlier parts of the films, they should have just got another actor. Like when they did Goodfellas and they had like Ray Liotta's young version of him, and they had a young version of Joe Pesci and all this kind of stuff. They could have gotten younger versions of these guys to play them at these different points in time. And I don't know. It just didn't work for me. He looked like a plastic doll in certain shots, and he looked much better in the older version of him when they didn't have the digital aging on him. The problem, some of the digital aging on De Niro was perfect, but there's a scene where he beats down this guy that shoved his daughter in a grocery store. He's a grocery store manager, and he beats him down. The problem is like De Niro's like 76 years old. So even de-aged, when he's kicking him on the ground and hitting him and fighting and beating him and stomping on him, he looks like a 40-year-old man, de-aged, but he's hitting this guy like a 76-year-old crippled man. It looked bad. And they could have done that in a wide shot and got a double from behind to be De Niro's character stomping on the guy on the ground and make it look, because I'm 44 years old. If I stomp somebody on the ground, my arms are going to be flaring. It would be a lot like what De Niro did in Goodfellas, stomping on somebody on the ground. But this just looked like an old man. But yet he was de-aged to look young. So it didn't sell it for me there. And some of the scenes that they recreated, some of the stuff, you could see where there was CGI. I mean, like there was a lot of taxi cabs in one scene, the old checkered cabs, but obviously, there's only so many of those around. And so there was this one area where it looked like there was a parking lot of them and they were exploding because the mob guys were blowing them up. And, you could tell some of it was like CGI. It was like fake. But that's really like my thoughts on the movie altogether. The crew did an amazing job. I just read in the trades that like the costume designer had 102 costume changes. Now I work in the film industry. I've got friends that are costume people. If that's a lot of damn work, and to keep up with who's wearing what throughout the whole time. And, it is what it is, man. So many people put their hard work, their blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. $115 million. There's a reason why it wasn't released theatrically. It would have had to have done $230 million just to break even. No studio would touch it. Netflix decided to do it as an original movie for this one last hurrah. And I think they've had like 17.5 million viewings of the movie since it was released. And that's great for Netflix. But that's a lot of money to drop on a mob film. And so, Stephen Graham was the big standout in this thing. I loved his character in this. He was on Boardwalk Empire, and I honestly, I hit him up on Twitter because I thought he was really from New York, because I was born in Jersey. My mother's from Manhattan. My dad, who passed away, he was born in Manhattan. And so like the accents, I'm very aware of like when people can't do an accent or not. And I didn't realize this guy's from Europe. Like this guy's like, and I was like, what the? I heard an interview where they were breaking down a scene on YouTube and they were interviewing him for some behind the scenes stuff. And he started to talk like this, and I'm going, what the fuck? I was like, this guy, I thought this guy was like really from New York. And he fooled me because he's on Boardwalk Empire as Al Capone. I thought he was damn really from New York too. This guy's amazing with his accent. And so anyway, long story short, yeah, you know, it was an okay movie. Am I going to sit through that again? No, I am not going to sit through that again. And, you know, it was a good last hurrah for all those guys. I wish them the best. And everybody who worked hard on this movie, you guys did a bang up job. I just thought it could have been cut down. Cut that damn thing down to 2 hours and 10 minutes. And you would have had a solid, clean, awesome mob movie. And yeah, and you know, the perspective is a little weird because I think they've questioned the guy, like his story, his account, because it was based on a book called I Paint Houses, which painting houses is when you kill somebody in the room and the blood splatters on the wall. He was a hitman kind of guy and, you know, became part of the Teamsters and all this other kind of stuff. So long story short, some people say his account was BS. If you watch the movie Hoffa, you know, they took a little liberty. He was killed in a totally different way. Jack Nicholson was gunned down as Hoffa in the backseat of a car. This one, he was lured into a house and shot. No one's ever really going to tell the story. And just about everybody that was involved in anything that would have gone down with Jimmy Hoffa back in the day is dead at this point. And so you don't have anything. We're never going to find out. And it sucks for the family. Anyway, that's how I feel about that. How did you like The Irishman? Let's talk about it in the comments section, and we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to share this video on social media, and take care for now. Bye.